Ladies, let me tell you something dangerous. Silence is louder than screams. Ignoring him, that's not weakness. It's a weapon. Because nothing drives a man crazier than a woman who's unbothered, untouched, and unapologetically glowing. You want to break his ego. Don't fight. Don't text. Don't chase. Just disappear. And watch him scramble like a lost boy looking for the woman who once gave him everything and now gives him nothing. Silence is not weakness. It is not surrender. It is strategy. When a woman chooses silence over reaction, it's not because she doesn't care. It's because she finally realized her energy is priceless. You see, in a world that expects women to scream, explain, justify, and try to be understood, choosing silence is rebellion, it's elegance, it's control. And trust me, there's nothing more dangerous than a woman who knows she doesn't owe anyone her reaction. Think about it. Every time you reacted to his lies, his games, his cold replies, did anything change, or did he just get more confident knowing he had the power to stir you up? That's the game. He pushes and you dance. He disappears and you beg. He acts cold and you burn up just to stay warm. And that's where the power slips from your hands into his. But the day you go silent, the whole game changes. Suddenly, he's no longer sure if you care. He's no longer certain he has you. The stage flips. The silence becomes a mirror, and he is forced to sit with his reflection without your energy to distract him. Imagine you're at work. Your colleague keeps trying to provoke you, testing your limits, tossing little jabs in meetings, expecting you to bite back. You don't. You smile. You continue. You let your results speak, not your temper. And what happens? People notice that colleague suddenly feels small. Your silence didn't just speak, it shouted. It said, I don't need to lower myself to prove anything to you. That's seductive. That's composure. That's power. Look at any powerful woman, the real ones, not the loud ones. They're the ones who sit in rooms full of chaos and remain unmoved. They don't flinch. They don't fight because they've outgrown reacting to noise. They know the truth. When you're truly powerful, you don't scream it, you embody it. That's the same energy you need in your relationships. He sends a dry text, you don't double it. He forgets to call, you don't chase. He disrespects your worth, you simply vanish. Not to hurt him, but to heal you. Take the everyday situation when a man ghosts a woman. The silence after the storm is real. Your instincts tell you to call, to beg, to scream, to ask why. But what if you did the opposite? What if you took that ghosting and turned it into your growth? What if you didn't react, didn't respond, didn't even acknowledge the disrespect? You move on, glow up, build yourself, and suddenly he's back scrambling because silence. It's addictive. It's loud in a way that makes men question everything. It whispers, I'm not desperate, I'm divine. Or when you're arguing with someone who's trying to control the narrative, the moment you stop trying to defend yourself and just let them talk, they lose power. Why? Because people who manipulate feed on your reaction. Your silence becomes their starvation. Your absence becomes their anxiety. And your peace, it becomes their punishment. A woman in silence is not invisible. She's invincible. She's focused. She's dangerous. Because a woman who doesn't need to react already knows her worth. She doesn't need validation. She doesn't seek revenge. Her silence is her sword. Her calm is her crown. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. It's full of presence. It tells the world and the man who thought he had her that she is no longer operating from emotion. She's operating from elevation, from wisdom, from sovereignty. And darling, when you master silence, you master yourself. There's a reason mystery feels so powerful. Because the unknown is unsettling, especially to those who thought they had you all figured out. When you become unpredictable, unavailable, and unbothered, people lose their grip on you. That's when they panic. That's when they chase. You see, misery is loud. It cries. It begs. It posts cryptic quotes on social media, hoping someone will notice. But mystery, it disappears into peace. It rebuilds in silence. It comes back unrecognizable. Stronger, softer, untouchable. We live in a world where people post their pain like it's a badge. Every argument becomes a story. Every heartbreak becomes a playlist. Every rejection becomes a screenshot. But tell me, this has oversharing ever healed anyone faster? Or did it just feed the illusion that someone out there still cares, still aches for your brokenness? Real power is when you don't give them that satisfaction. Real strength is when you choose to protect your healing behind closed doors, not broadcast it to people who only tune in when you're suffering. Think about that girl who goes through a breakup and instantly starts posting thirst traps, sad songs, dramatic captions. Everyone can read her pain like a diary. She thinks she's getting attention, and maybe she is, but it's not respect. It's not mystery. Now think about the woman who goes silent, who doesn't post, who doesn't announce her pain. She simply disappears, reinvents, and comes back glowing, unstoppable. That woman, she haunts them because she didn't turn her misery into a performance. She turned it into mystery. Let's say you're in a relationship and he starts pulling away. You feel it. He stops texting like he used to, takes longer to reply, becomes colder. Most women would spiral, start asking questions, sending long emotional paragraphs trying to fix it. But not you. You do something different. You don't react. You mirror him, you pull back. You make your schedule tighter. You prioritize your glow up. And suddenly he's confused. He expected a storm. He got silence. He expected drama. He got distance. And now he's the one overthinking because you didn't give him misery. You gave him mystery. Even in friendships or work, mystery is magnetic. When you're the person who doesn't share every detail, people respect you more. Your boss doesn't need to hear your complaints. Let your results make the noise. Your colleagues don't need to know your every plan. Let your moves speak for themselves. Be the woman who moves in silence and shocks in execution. Let them think they know you, and then surprise them with who you're becoming. And remember the power of holding back. You don't have to tell him how badly he hurt you. You don't need to explain what he lost. He will feel it, not through your tears, but through your transformation, through the silence, through the mystery. Because the moment you stop broadcasting your breakdowns and start focusing on your breakthrough, everything changes. Now he's watching. Now he's regretting. Now he's realizing the woman he thought he broke just became a version of herself he can't access anymore. Mystery keeps your power intact. Misery gives it away. Every time you choose not to explain, not to expose, not to entertain the drama, you rise. You become a walking question mark. And people fear what they cannot understand. They chase what they cannot predict. And they regret what they can no longer reach. In your daily life, choose to keep parts of yourself sacred. Let the world see your light, but never all of your flame. Let them witness your smile, but protect your scars. Don't give every detail, every emotion, every thought to people who only value your vulnerability when it entertains them. The less they know, the more they crave. The less you reveal, the more powerful you become. Let them wonder where you went. Let them guess how you healed. Let them try to figure out how you're still standing and glowing. There is something undeniably magnetic about a woman who cannot be shaken, who cannot be pulled into the emotional chaos someone else created. She feels deeply, yes, but she doesn't let anyone play with those feelings like they're switches to be flipped on and off. When a woman becomes emotionally untouchable, she becomes irresistible because suddenly she's no longer someone you can manipulate with sweet words and mixed signals. She's no longer the girl who cries over inconsistency. She's the woman who doesn't even flinch when someone threatens to leave. You know what makes someone powerful? It's not how loud they scream or how fast they fight back. It's how calmly they respond when someone tries to throw them off balance. Think about the girl who used to lose sleep over late replies, ghosting, and breadcrumbs of affection. Then one day she wakes up and decides, I'm done letting other people rent space in my soul. That girl evolves. She sees a red flag and walks away, not with drama, but with dignity. And that silence, that peace, that unshakable calm, that's what drives them wild. Let me give you a real life scene. Imagine you're at dinner with a guy who's testing you. Maybe he makes a rude comment, tries to flirt with the waitress, something just to check if you'll get jealous. Most women would react instantly. A glare or sarcastic comeback. Maybe you even walk out. But you smile. You sip your wine. You look at him with grace and say nothing. That moment, that's power because he expected a storm and got a sunrise. You didn't lose control. You reminded him you are the control. Being emotionally untouchable doesn't mean you're cold or disconnected. It means you've trained yourself to not be reactive. It means you've understood that someone else's behavior doesn't define your response. You don't give people the satisfaction of knowing they can upset you. And that calm confidence is intoxicating. It's not about pretending you don't feel. It's about knowing when to show it and when to protect it. Think about work. Your boss yells at you in front of your team. Your old self might have gone to the restroom and cried. But the new you listen. Stay composed, respond with clarity, and leave the room with your head high. You didn't match his energy. You mastered your own. And that poise, that elegance under fire, that makes you unforgettable. In relationships, men don't fall in love with the girl who's available at every call, who replies in seconds, who breaks down the moment he pulls away. They fall for the woman who is her own home, the one who doesn't chase, the one who doesn't beg, the one who can walk away from anything that doesn't feel right, not out of anger, but out of certainty. She's emotionally grounded, centered, untouched by emotional games. That woman, she's rare, and men don't forget her. Your ex texts you at midnight with a, "Hey, stranger." You don't respond. Not because you're bitter, but because you've healed. Because the version of you that entertained crumbs has been buried under the queen who now demands feasts. That silence is your new language. That peace is your loudest response. You've become emotionally untouchable. And now they're the ones spiraling. People will test you, especially when they sense you've grown. They'll poke, provoke, try to unravel the calm you've built. But when you no longer react with tears or rage, when you just raise your eyebrows and smile, they feel it, that they've lost the ability to control you. And that's when the balance of power shifts. When you become emotionally untouchable, you're no longer available for chaos. You're no longer a playground for inconsistency. You become a fortress full of light, but not easy to enter. People can admire your beauty, but they can't manipulate your emotions. They can be drawn to your fire, but they can't burn you anymore, because now you've mastered the ultimate power, emotional sovereignty, and that is what makes you unforgettable. There's a strange law of human psychology that most people never fully understand. People don't obsess over what they have. They obsess over what they can't reach. What is accessible becomes ordinary. What is distant becomes divine. That's why disconnection is the most powerful move you can ever make. When someone begins to take your presence for granted, the more you pull back, the more their mind starts to chase you, not because they miss you, but because they can't figure out why you don't miss them. You want to create obsession. Stop explaining, stop updating, stop proving. Just disappear, not with drama, not with bitterness, with elegance, with intention, with self-respect. Because the moment they realize you're no longer responding to their games, their silence, their half-love, that's the moment they start craving the very energy they tried to devalue. People don't remember noise, they remember absence. That echo of your silence, that's what haunts them. Think of a woman who always picked up the phone, always answered the text, always showed up, and then one day she thinks she's playing a game. He waits for the usual comeback, but it never arrives. Days pass, weeks. Maybe this happens in friendships, too. You're always the one planning, checking in, remembering birthdays. Then one day you don't. You stop being the glue that holds it all together. And suddenly, they notice the silence, they notice the absence of effort. And for the first time, they realize what your presence actually meant. This connection has a way of magnifying your worth in the minds of those who never saw it when you were near. In the workplace, the same energy applies. You're the go-to person, always available, always reliable. They forget to say thank you. They expect you to carry the weight. Then one day, you take a step back. You don't overextend. You don't overperform. You do just enough, and suddenly they notice your value. Not because you yelled, not because you quit, but because your disconnection made them realize how dependent they were on your consistency. There's nothing more attractive than someone who walks away, not to punish, but to protect their peace. When a woman chooses herself over chasing clarity from someone who refuses to communicate, she becomes magnetic. She no longer begs for closure. She becomes the closure. That kind of power, it doesn't need to shout. It doesn't seek revenge. It lets the absence do the talking. People chase what's slipping away. They value what's no longer guaranteed. You want them to obsess. Be the peace they can't disturb. Be the energy they can't access. Be the calm that doesn't flinch. When they come back with empty apologies, when you disconnect, you create space. And in that space, they start remembering your laugh, your touch, your presence. And it's no longer yours to give. Even in dating, wonder. Let him feel what life is like without your texts, your compliments, your attention. Watch how curiosity turns into concern. How concern turns into obsession because the mind starts filling in the blanks. What is she doing? Is she stealing someone else? Did she stop loving me? That loop doesn't break. And all because you did the one thing he didn't expect. You disconnected. You don't need to play hard to get. Just be hard to forget. And that starts with removing your energy from anyone who treats it like it's disposable. Stop showing up where you're overlooked. Stop giving access to those who think you'll always be there. Because when your presence becomes a privilege, your absence becomes a punishment they never recover from. You weren't born to beg for applause. You weren't created to shrink yourself into the comfort zones of others just to feel accepted. Your value isn't something you borrow from their compliments or their approval. It's already yours, unshakable, unnegotiable. And until you start walking like you know that, they'll keep treating you like you don't. The moment you realize your value doesn't need validation, that's the moment everything changes. That's when power enters the room with you. You don't need him to tell you you're beautiful to know you are. You don't need your friends to hype you up to feel powerful. You don't need your boss's constant praise to believe in your brilliance. When you truly understand your worth, you don't wait for someone to confirm it. You carry it loudly, silently, boldly, and the world will feel it in your energy before you say a word. Think of a woman standing in front of a mirror, no makeup, hair messy, heartbroken, but she looks herself in the eye and says, "I still got me." That moment right there, that's sacred. Because it's easy to feel valuable when the world is clapping for you. But to feel it when no one is watching, when no one is validating your light, that is divine. At work, you might be the one who always goes the extra mile, who fixes the problems, who holds the team together, and yet your efforts go unnoticed. The old you might have sulked, wondered, doubted, but the evolved you still deliver. Not for recognition, not for the raise, but because excellence is who you are. That's what separates those who need validation from those who embody value. You don't wait to be seen. You shine anyway. Relationships test this truth the hardest. Maybe you've loved someone who couldn't love you the same way. You kept trying to be enough. You twisted, bent, gave, adjusted. But every time you looked in their eyes, searching for value, you felt empty. That's because your worth was never in their hands. It was always in yours. And the day you stop performing for their affection is the day you start living in your power. Have you ever noticed how children walk into a room? They don't wait for permission to laugh, to dance, to speak. They just are. They don't second guess if they're too loud, too weird, too much. That's because their value hasn't been conditioned out of them yet. But somewhere along the way, life teaches us to wait for someone else to tell us we're good enough. It's time to unlearn that. It's time to be wild again in your self-worth, not reckless, rooted. When a woman knows her worth, she stops negotiating her standards just to be liked. She doesn't reply to every message. She doesn't show up for every invitation. She doesn't explain herself to people committed to misunderstanding her. She knows I am not for everyone and I don't have to be. And that confidence, that self-assurance, it's magnetic. Not because she's arrogant, but because she's done asking the world for permission to exist. You walk into a room and no one notices. Good. Let your energy speak. Let your actions build the echo. Because the ones who miss your value in silence will one day choke on the sound of your success. They'll remember the girl they overlooked when they see the woman the world can't ignore. Validation is addictive, but freedom is better. When you stop needing them to see you, you finally see yourself. If you stop being the reflection of their opinions and start becoming the reflection of your truth, and trust me, when you live like that, they either rise to your level or they fall away. Either way, you win because you're no longer chasing approval. You're walking in alignment, and no one can take that from you. Confidence is the ultimate closure. Closure doesn't come from them explaining why they left, why they lied, or why they couldn't love you. Right? Closure comes the moment you stop waiting for one. Confidence is the ultimate closure because it says, I don't need your apology to heal. I don't need your explanation to move on. I've already chosen myself. And when a woman makes that decision, not out of ego, but from deep self-respect, she becomes unstoppable. Think of the girl who kept rereading old messages, kept overanalyzing what she did wrong, kept replaying every conversation in her head just to find some sense of peace. But peace doesn't live in the past. It doesn't live in their guilt or regret. It lives in the moment. You look in the mirror and realize it wasn't about you being unworthy. It was about them being unready. And instead of trying to fix what broke, you rise above it. You don't need him to tell you he was wrong. You don't need closure from someone who couldn't even give you commitment. That's like asking a storm to explain why it rained. Some people hurt you not because you deserved it, but because that's the only language they know. And the truth is, if they had the capacity to love you the way you deserved, they never would have let you go. So stop waiting at doors that closed on you. Walk away like the storm never touched you. Imagine being at a job where they overlooked you for years, passed you up for promotions, took your brilliance for granted. You quit, you move on, and years later they hear about your success. And suddenly they remember your name. But guess what? You didn't need their praise. Your growth, your glow, up your confidence. That was your closure. Because nothing screams louder than a woman who refuses to be bitter, who gets better instead. Confidence is not pretending it didn't hurt. It's knowing that the pain didn't break you. You walked through fire and came out gold. You learned to hold your head high, not because life was easy, but because you became stronger. And now you don't need to tell your story to every stranger. You don't need to seek validation in likes or texts. Your silence is filled with strength. Your absence is filled with impact. You see this even in friendships. Maybe she stopped inviting you. Maybe they talked behind your back. Maybe they left when you needed them most. And for a while you questioned your worth. But one day you start laughing again. You start enjoying your own company. You start creating, traveling, shining. That version of you, that radiant, glowing woman who found joy without them. She is your closure. Your evolution is the proof that you never needed their loyalty to be whole. Closure is overrated. You don't always get to hear, I'm sorry. You don't always get to understand why, and that's okay, because confidence teaches you that the chapter was valuable, even if it ended messy. Every heartbreak taught you how to love yourself deeper. Every betrayal showed you the value of protecting your energy. Every silence reminded you to listen to your intuition louder. You didn't lose anything. You learned everything. Now, if this message resonates with you, like and share this post. Subscribe for more empowering content, and remember you are always enough. The power is in your silence.